you know, we go on all these diets that take out the carbs. Well, I'm just letting you know, if you're hormonal, you need carbs, and it really is what fuels us.
Sure.
And so if you don't get your carb intake in, you're going to eat it at night, and then you're in deep trouble, because that's when you create your HGH, and that's our human growth hormone. So ladies, men, you don't want to mess that up, because we need everything we can get, right? But if you're eating that at night, it doesn't produce it, because it works on digesting the food.
Yep.
So I believe what you're saying. I think that's. But how would you say is it? You know, I think that we've gotten out of portion control. And how would you say you would suggest, to keep it all in, but keep it all on the perimeters where we can stay healthy and not overconsume?
Yeah, right. So I think that here are the three things that people will always kind of, when I'm building nutritional programs for people, basically these are the three kind of like elements, okay, right? It's what to eat, when to eat, and how much to eat. That's really the three. That's just those three things. Okay, right? What to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. If you're able to really have great alignment in all three of those areas, is when you get great performance, energy, body composition, weight loss, whatever you're trying to get. Okay, right? Interestingly, what is most important is actually knowing when to eat.
Yes.
So number one is when to eat. Number two is how much to eat, which actually ties into the first one. And then the last one is what to eat. And what we do is we oftentimes will focus on what to eat. Oh, here's the next superfood, get on this type of diet that focuses on this macro. Because that's easier for us to comprehend, okay, right? And it's easier for us to kind of manage, okay, right? But that's also why we're in the situation that we're in. Is because we so focus on what to eat, and then we forget about the other two, and the other two is basically how to use this tool about what to eat, right? So anyways, the main thing is saying, okay, well, all right, when to eat. Let's take that point, okay, right? When to eat is based on what you're doing. It's based on your activity. Okay, right? So, whenever I build a nutritional program for someone, the first thing I do is I ask them, okay, tell me what your life is like. Tell me what 70% of your life is like. Meaning, you wake up, you go to bed at this time, you have these types of appointments, you have this, most of my stuff is for performance athletes, so this is when I train, this is when I recover, this is when we're all athletes. And so I get that schedule, and then I get kind of that schedule for 2 weeks, and then you can kind of figure out what the majority of their day looks like every day, if you will, and sometimes well, that now tells you this is how far I'm going to run. So now let's use a car example, okay, right? So it's basically saying this is how far I'm driving from 1 to 2. This is how far I'm driving from 4 to 5. This is how far I'm driving from 6 to 9. It tells you how far you're driving. Well, then based on how far you're driving is how I can figure out how much to eat. Because if you're driving, 9 miles, then I wouldn't put 8 miles of gas in you. Right. And I wouldn't put 10 miles of gas in you. Right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want that much gas.
Yeah.
Too gassy.
Yeah, exactly. We have issues with all that. Right? So that's how you have to kind of think about it, is like, all right, well, I'm going to try to get you to each point with enough fuel so that you don't have too much or you don't have too less. Now, that's based on a lot of different things, variables that I don't know of. People metabolize food differently. They are genetically different to a certain degree. They've got, whatever. So then it just becomes almost a trial and error. It becomes let's try this. I just did this with an athlete the other day. Okay, I believe that you need 3,200 calories to really get through your day in a high performance kind of way. This is where I think 400 calories should start. This is where 600 should be. This is where 800 should be, you know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's see how that works. So how did you feel after that? Oh, I felt like that was too much. I felt stuffed. I felt uncomfortable. Oh, at that time, I felt like, man, I still felt a little tired at the end. I kind of pooped out. I didn't have it. Okay, well, then you start kind of like, you know, changing it a little bit, you know, right? And then you kind of figure out what the numbers really are for you. Now, I get it. Like I was listening to something the other day, and I know we're going to talk about this, about all these kind of nutritional plans, you know, the paleo plans and keto plans and Atkins plans, and then, and you know,
exhausted while you're talking about those.
What's that? I get exhausted about talking. Yeah, I get exhausted and frustrated about talking about those things, you know, right? And yeah, and I'm not saying that they don't have some value in them, but one of the things that is interesting is that everybody wants to get away from this calorie conversation. And they want to say, oh, you don't have to worry about the calories. Just eat as many calories as you can want. Just make sure that you kind of stay in these proportions, if you will, okay, right? And that you shouldn't focus on calories. I don't understand that one bit. I mean, that seems so ridiculous to feel like, okay, wait, you know, you can talk about intermittent fasting, okay, right? Yeah, okay, right? And they talk about the fact that, hey, listen, you know what? Let's just say you're going to eat within an 8-hour window, okay, right? Rather, you know, right? Well, you can eat what? Are you saying that you can eat however many calories you want
what they say.
in 8 hours?
Yeah.
Like, so if you're really expending, 2,000 calories, you could literally eat 10,000 calories and be healthy and be, that's what you're trying to tell me. Well, that doesn't make any sense. And so for me, I say, well, I'm not trying to make calorie the end-all, be-all. But what I am trying to say is that you do have to manage your calories. You have to say to yourself, okay, this is probably a good, reasonable amount of calories that I should be consuming per day. And therefore, I'm going to consume those calories within this 8-hour window because there is this great benefit, we'll talk about later, is the whole fasting element.
Right.
So therefore, I believe that, it first starts off with understanding how many calories you need to consume.
At a time.
At a time in a setting. Exactly. You know, right? And that you can perform at it. And so first you figure out, okay, when am I going to consume? You're going to consume at this time because you got to drive this far. How much is based on how far you're going to drive. And then what you got to do is you got to figure out what calories you're going to eat. Because every calorie the calorie itself has a value inherently, but then intrinsically the calorie has a value in the sense that like what are you going to be able to put in that 1 calorie box? Are you putting sugar in that box? Are you putting fiber in that box? Are you putting protein in that box? Are you putting vitamins and minerals and antioxidants? What are you wanting to put in that box? Well, that's when you start thinking about what you're going to eat. Yeah. Because then you start saying, well, I want to put the best things in each of these boxes.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Okay, that's better. So you do think that maybe the intermittent fasting is okay, but it's not you can eat whatever you want. Because I do have friends that are like, oh, yeah, you can intermittent fasting, eat whatever you want. And they lose weight. Yeah. And I'm like, what's happening here? I'm not losing weight, Sanjeev. Yeah. What's happening?
Yeah.
I'm
doing the same
when
thing?
I wake up.
Yes.
No, I did the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you got to do the same thing as that. And so here's the thing. So first of all, they're right and they're true. Okay, right? So there's studies, numerous studies that support that if you were not to change your diet, meaning what you're eating and how much you're eating, and you consume that same within an 8-hour period rather than a 12-hour period or a 10-hour period or whatever, that you will lose weight. You will lose weight, okay, right? You have the ability to lose weight, okay, right? And so someone might say, well, wait a second, that seems so odd, because basically this person is eating 3,000 calories. They're not eating very healthy calories, but because they're doing it within this 8-hour window rather than this 12-hour window, that person's able to lose weight, but the other person isn't. It's the same on paper, it's the same. Well, the difference is that physiologically it's different. And the reason why it's different is because there's various factors, but let's just kind of go over the fact that if you're consuming those calories over a longer period of time, you are now allowing other types of hormones and stuff to respond, such as insulin, that can be weight gaining elements. You could be also, you're also not allowing the body any type of break, which actually has its own amazing benefits on reparative and recovery. It allows for cell detoxification that makes things run more efficiently. Your metabolism gets better. You actually have a situation where the body is in this starvation mode, which then triggers a bunch of other kind of healthy genetic things. Well, I think here's the thing is that you need to be starving, okay, right?
It's normal.
And so, well, yeah, from an evolutionary standpoint, you weren't always full, okay, right? And so you're basically saying,
when my stomach's going, you're really hungry, you're really starving in there. When I wake up, I'm starving.
Yeah, well,
but I don't, and then I'm afraid that I'm going to get acid reflux if I don't put something in my stomach.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know whether you'll have acid reflux or not on the thing, but it does. Yeah, but
give me the basics.
Yeah, but like if she's fasting and you feel tired when you wake up, is that just, should she listen to that? Or should she try to fast and kind of make it to a certain point?
Yes.
Or should she be like, okay, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat right now?
The stomach.
Yeah, so I think that you have to understand is that the body, you're not at a loss for energy. Okay, right? Yeah, you're looking into that stomach. You're looking into that stomach. Yeah, you're like, oh, I look fantastic in the morning.
No,
I look
I'm
so
listening.
good.
I'm like, it's growling, and I'm like, I'm really hungry. Should I give it another half an hour, or should you not?
Well, you have to understand this, okay, right? You're not at a loss for energy, okay, right? I don't care about your hunger, okay, right? And your experience of hunger, okay, right? What you're actually saying is that, do I not have any energy reserves for my body to function? Well, you waking up hungry doesn't mean that you don't have energy reserves to function. And actually, for the body to actually access those energy reserves, it's going to need to get to a point where it doesn't have anything to use right away. Now, what's causing your feeling of starvation and your stomach grumbling and things like that is because you've kind of taught your body, hey, listen, we don't starve. Right? We don't, this is something, you don't starve. We're not going to let you starve. So therefore, it's not used to having those types of experiences. So then it's going to cry out to you and say, listen.
Wait, the baby
exactly. Yeah, and it's going to say, yeah, and so therefore you have to kind of teach your body to say, oh, wait a second, we're good. Don't worry. You've got energy reserves. I need you to go access those energy reserves. And when you do that, you'll then have the energy that you need. You'll have the performance that you want. Your stomach will stop growling and all that sort of stuff. But I think that you also have to realize, too, is that, just to be quick, is that, this isn't for everybody, right? And so I think that if your body isn't responding well after 2 weeks,
so give it
maximum 3 weeks, then you may want to say, well, wait a second, maybe this type of lifestyle isn't really for me. Because everybody's different.
Yes.
We're responding to fasting, exactly,
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So you say, okay, so if the stomach, because this is what happens, I mean, this is a common thing with us and why we don't, so because intermittent fasting is really one of the trending, basically the trending diet. And it seems to be working, right, for people. That eat all those 10,000 calories and then still lose weight. It's bizarre, but not me. So anyways, so give it a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So would you say like, okay, so I stop eating at 8, right? And then I don't eat until 8. So that starts at 12 hours, right? Yeah. So does it matter like what you eat? I'm sure it does, but what would you suggest the last meal be so that you're not waking up in the morning starving?
I think that the last meal should be, there's only 3 kind of nutrients, right? There's carbohydrates, protein, and fats.
Right.
That meal should be more of a protein-fat meal.
Okay.
Because you're going to have the ability to, and even more a little fat, if you will, because you'll have more energy reserve element in that. And also you have to realize is that the point of, and remember, this is a confusion that people have. Time restrictive eating and intermittent fasting, they're similar, but they're different. Okay, right? And so let's go over that. Okay, right? So time restrictive eating is when you are saying, I'm only going to eat within an 8-hour window, a 10-hour window, a 12-hour window. You are restricting your consumption of food for a certain time period, okay, right? And it's pretty set. It's either 8, 10, 12, okay, right? Intermittent fasting, it can be done, a lot of different ways. It can be, someone can say, oh, I'm not going to eat anything for a full day. Some people can say, I'm not going to eat anything for 2 full days. Some do it every other day. I mean, there's really no kind of, schedule that's kind of set up for that. Well, evolutionary, you're set up to not eat for long periods of time. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. Well, you've created a system that says you'll die. You know what I mean, right? And so, trust me, you won't physically die. You might emotionally die, but you won't physically die. But yeah. And so I think that's important to understand. And then the other thing that's important to understand is that the benefits of what you get from each are different. So time restrictive eating, a lot of its benefits are on weight loss and managing your weight and things like that. Time or intermittent fasting, those are, when done right, is for the real health properties, like your regenerative work, cellular, dead cellular breakdown, the cleansing, the detoxifying, that's what fasting does. Fasting, when you're not consuming anything but water and you're doing it for a long period of time, some even say, 2 to 3 days, and if it's anything less than that, don't call it fasting, call it something else.
Call it starving yourself, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Come over here.
It's it really is. So anyways, that's kind of the thing you've got to kind of think about is that, so with time restricted eating, the key thing is that, start slowly. I would say that, first start with a 12-hour window, and then maybe every 2 weeks, bring it down another couple hours. And the optimal, or maybe kind of the goal is to be within that 8-hour window of consuming foods. And usually that'll probably be around, 2 meals, maybe 3 meals. It doesn't really matter so much. It just matters more of that 8-hour thing.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Have you had a lot of success with it?
Yeah, I've had great success with both. I've had great success with fasting, more importantly, from a regenerative standpoint. Yeah. I think that intermittent fasting, I just kind of naturally do, is one thing. But then secondly, like there is a lot of time in between meals that I kind of have, right?
And you do that on purpose, which is good.
I do it on purpose. Yeah. I mean, I think that there is, I really do consciously try to go through the day and have times in which I'm like starving, like I'm hungry.
So the growling is really actually normal.
Yeah, growling doesn't necessarily mean you're starving. Growling is
it's not
it could be no, you're right in the sense that it has those types of signals, but there can be other reasons why you may be growling or whatever. But like my stomach doesn't growl. I just get started.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, right.
So then you're saying don't listen to, like, when you growl, give it a little bit longer to get past it?
Yeah, when you know you are hungry, right?
I don't know. I think we're so jacked up.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, as you're talking about, like, I think that, back in the day, I know that I was always taught to keep my insulin levels is to eat every 2 to 3 hours. Well, right. No wonder, I'm here where I'm at, because I've never given my body a time to, and I've always been conscious of that. Like, okay, I got to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And am I happier? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am, people. Yes. But I mean, I'm eating like apples and and nuts, but And so, but I'm not giving my body enough time to like settle down and like really actually repair the rest of it, which would cause or be part of the reason why there's inflammation.
Right.
Which is part of the weight gain.
Yep.
So that's why I was saying like you consciously, so when you say like maybe like 3 to 4 hours between meals?
Yeah, I would say more. I'd say, try to 4 or 5 hours before meals.
Okay.
Yeah.
4 to 5 hours? So like,
well, yeah.
I guess so. So if you eat breakfast, so say
like
you get up at
8
6.
to 12.
What would you suggest for me? So I get up at 6 o'clock, whatever, take my thyroid at 5:30. So I'm ready to go at 6 to eat or whatever. What would you say?
So every 4 or 5 hours you're eating.
So should I start eating as soon as I get up?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, for you, it's like saying, okay, if I'm going to do this time restrictive eating and I got to pick 8 hours.
Oh, right.
Pick which 8 hours. I don't know what 8 hours it is, right? And so then you pick your 8 hours and then you say, okay, this is when I'm going to start eating and this is when I'll stop,
Is there anyone who shouldn't do that type of thing? Like any certain
Yeah, I think you got to be
thyroid problems. Or...
Yeah, I think you got to be really careful with individuals that have an inability to manage their blood glucose levels. Right? Diabetics and such. I think thyroid is another thing too. There's obviously a lot of individuals who do have hypothyroidism that actually use intermittent fasting or time restrictive eating as a health kind of element. Yeah. But I think you've got to just be careful where you are on your thyroid journey, right? Just because one of the things that does happen with time restrictive eating and fasting is calorie restriction. Calorie restriction can cause some imbalances in the T3 and T4 and such. And so, but there's just a lot of people who advocate it as well, too. Probably the number one thing they advocate it for is that, obviously, from a cellular standpoint, you can get great recycling, or not recycling, but detoxification of the thyroid cellular glands, which will create efficiency and production and therefore better management of your thyroid and things like that,
Okay, that's good.
Cool.
I think that's good.
All right.
And then next time he's going to have a whole plan for me because we're going to work together. And I'm going to get it all together. I'm going to have it. I'm going to have my reviews. I'm going to tell you how good I feel. How good.
That's right. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Do you have any other things that we should talk about? Thank you for that. Thank you so much for all of that. I hope that that's helpful, and I would love to see all your stuff and comments on the intermittent fasting because that is one of the trending.
It is. It's a hot topic.
Women, and it's such a cloudy topic. I mean, we could sit here and talk to you of what everybody else is telling you, but I'm not, as you know me, I'm not a bullshitter, and I'm a pretty straightforward, and we want to educate you and help you instead of just giving you a plan that's going to last 2 weeks and then you're going to find yourself back where you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we're going to do more of these.
We'll do more of these for sure, right? That's why we want your comments, so you can tell us about your comments and what you want to hear. And we'll be talking about beets next time.
Okay, and so we're going to just give you a little piece of this. So I use this Beet Elite, and Sanjeev has a product of his that he was telling me about. So I had asked him because he's like he's the guru, and because I use this beets because I don't drink a lot of the energy drinks or anything to work out, and this does seem to help me with the nitric oxide and get my cells. But so we're going to talk about this, and then you want to tell them a teeny bit of what yours is?
Oh yeah, sure. So I developed a beets-based product, and just like you said, the great thing about beets is it helps with nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide production is a vasodilator, so it helps the blood vessels to relax and therefore increase circulation. Anytime you increase circulation, you increase oxygen. Oxygen then brings you energy, And so, I developed a product a couple of years ago. It's called Cardio Beets, and it basically has beet powder, but it also has tart cherry as well too. Tart cherry is one of the more powerful anti-inflammatory types of fruits, and then it also has a specialized mango extract that helps with this enzyme that changes basically the nitrates that are in the beet to nitric oxide and then a set of minerals. So we'll talk more about that. Super important,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Bye.
See ya.